Hi, this is Pavel from MinIO. In this video, we will continue demonstrating our MCP server for AIStor. We started showing you some user-level features, but in this video, we will demonstrate some admin-level features and how you can use human language to manage your AIStor cluster. For example, let's start with a simple question. Give me admin information about this cluster. As you can see, we can get this information from a simple mcadmin info command, but the language model gives us an overview of this cluster. It's not just a list of resources, but it's an overview with a number of buckets, with a number of objects, a number of versions, and a number of disks, etc., etc. Even the erasure code configuration is mentioned here, and all the minor details are provided here. What if we don't need that much information and we need just a short version which we could show or send to our manager? Please give me a shorter version of this info that I can send to my manager. Look, we have now a very short report, a status report of our cluster, which shows how many buckets, how many nodes, and that the cluster is healthy. This is exactly what our manager wants to see. Let's continue asking questions. Let's ask about available storage, for example. How much storage is available on this cluster? And it shows us the total storage capacity, how many drives, and the current storage used, and available storage. And also it gives us storage distribution report, which is very helpful if you are a cluster admin in this case. What if we ask about storage distribution by bucket? Give us storage distribution by bucket. Let's see. First, it lists the buckets on the cluster, and then it gets information about the storage. And now, look, it doesn't just give us raw information about the storage distribution, but it creates a beautiful table with all the data about our buckets, about the size of those buckets, and even percentage of total storage, number of objects, and so on and so forth. It's really cool. And imagine if you had to create this kind of output using, for example, a Python script, then it might take you a couple of hours to create a script to summarize all this information. Now it's done just by using normal human language. Pretty cool. Now, I know that Claude, this client which I'm using now, Claude can create beautiful diagrams and charts. Sometimes it uses Mermaid, sometimes it uses JavaScript. We can ask to create a pie chart of this storage distribution. Please create a pie chart of this info. Let's see how Claude can solve this problem. You can see the whole source code of this application, of this script, but also you can see the visualization, and as you can see, it's very interactive, and you can maybe even import it into your report about the cluster. Let's try something more challenging. Please give us a visual representation of this cluster using JavaScript. Let's see. Again, it creates a React component with JavaScript, and let's see if it can visualize it properly. Let's see what it has finally created. It shows us the number of objects, it shows us the storage, And also, as you can see, it's a really interactive application. You can click nodes and you can see the nodes with pools and available storage. You can see buckets and you can see the storage distribution. You can also see the table. You can click storage and you can see erasure coding information here and storage pool information. It's really cool. And yes, you can use this application to provide information about your cluster, and you can update it from time to time. It's really cool. And this is something, as I said, you can include in your report to your manager. Let's get back to asking questions. We know that in AIStor, in MinIO buckets, you can enable versioning. And versioning gives you ability to save previous versions of certain objects. Let's ask this question about one of the buckets. Is versioning enabled in bucket receipts? It tells us that yes, versioning is enabled in the receipts bucket. And also, besides providing this information about this bucket, also it explains what it means for objects and for object management, that we can store several versions and so on and so forth. It's pretty interesting. You can use it as your tutorial if you are not very familiar with MinIO terms and concepts. Then you can use help from large language models. Now let's ask, what about the AI data bucket? You see, we didn't specify what we are asking about. Essentially, we are just continuing this conversation, and we just use normal human language to ask questions about our cluster. And again, it tells us that it's not enabled, but it explains what it means and why it might not be enabled, and asks us if we can enable, if we want to enable versioning for this bucket. We can do yes, please. Again, being within the context, now the language model understands what we mean by yes, please, and it enables versioning in the AI data bucket. Also, among other admin features of AIStor clusters, we have a feature called information lifecycle management, which allows us to expire or transfer certain objects or versions of our objects into maybe a different layer of our storage. And we can configure these rules, information lifecycle management rules, for each bucket. And we can ask our MCP server to provide this information, for example, about AIStor MCP bucket. Give us information about information lifecycle rules for AIStor MCP bucket. And it gives us information about the configured lifecycle management rules for AIStor MCP. It shows us the status is enabled, and it tells us that the rule is for non-concurrent versions expiration after 90 days, which means after 90 days, our versions in this bucket will be expired. And again, it explains, it gives you a tutorial what it means for you, and even explains the implications of applying this rule to this bucket. You see, it helps us to manage our cluster and to specify certain rules, certain configurations for buckets, for objects, and so on and so forth. In all that using just simple human language. So this is pretty interesting addition to our AIStor capabilities, which you can use with your own clusters, and you can manage them. You can manage your objects, you can manage your configurations, your information lifecycle rules, your tags, and basically everything using MCP Server for AIStor. Thanks for coming for this video, and please check our blog about admin features of the MCP Server. And please come again in the next video, in the next blog, we will tell you about the internal structure of this MCP server and how we build it. Thanks again, and bye-bye.